Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to night number 13 of the overnight feed recaps for Big Brother Season 27. A good Monday to all of y'all. All right, we got a lot of talk about this particular recap episode. Yes, right. The first week, I feel like everyone joins any alliance that's offered to them. You never say no, but everyone accepts every alliance, trying to fit in with as many people as they can. Now we're into the little second stage where we're seeing these big alliances, big groups starting to have some divisions, people griping internally and maybe not feeling as comfortable some as they are others. So we saw a lot of conversations last night of people who maybe at one point seem close to each other that are starting to maybe see some different directions they want to go. So we'll cover all of that. I'm going to try to do it fast today. A lot to talk about. So I'm going to go fast and see if I can cover it all. All right. Quick as a refresher. We've got Keanu, Kelly, and Adrian are all on the block, but Keanu definitely will be using the veto on himself at today's veto ceremony. Kelly will use it on herself. Surely she would, right? Yeah, she will. But she has to win the competition first, and we don't know what the competition is, but it'll be at the veto ceremony itself. If she uses it as well, she'll be pulling herself off, and then we'll see who goes up. Jimmy is planning right now to put up Amy and potentially Will as the renoms. There were some discussions about that. Some people think he needs to go a different direction. Jimmy even mentioned a potential blindside. We'll cover all of that. So let's talk about the feeds. We're going to start up right after the TV episode ends. We've got Ashley and Jimmy talking. Ashley is asking if his renom plans are the same. He's saying, yeah, he says, I'm still planning these same renoms, being Amy and Will, but my target is changing every few hours. Well, he doesn't actually get a vote once it comes down to the renoms. His job is done for the week, but he still has different ideas about where he would want to go. There's a lot of people that have talked about, I can't remember if it's Morgan. There are a lot of people who could have said, I can't remember who said, it's just a Jimmy show this week. He's not caring about ours. I think this was Morgan. He's not caring about our opinions at all. It's all about Jimmy this week. Well, as soon as those renoms are done, Jimmy show's over. He may not understand that, but that's the case. He's saying, yeah, my targets are changing every few hours. He's saying Amy's still going up, but I don't think she's going home at this point. I think his target, and he's saying that, I think his target is Will right now. But again, that could change also. But confirming that Kelly is still a top target if she doesn't win this veto comp and she stays on the block at that point. And if she didn't win the blockbuster comp, certainly Kelly is the one to go home. Jimmy later says that would make my life so much easier. I don't want an easy life for Jimmy. I want as much chaos as we can this week. So Kelly, win that veto. Let's see what happens. Although I am cheering for Will, and that would certainly impact his game. All right, we've got Jimmy and Adrian talking. Jimmy is talking about how unfortunate it is that Adrian played so well in that veto comp, but came in second because of Keanu's power that brought Casey into the game. Jimmy does tell Adrian that he isn't going home. He says, look, I know you're going up, but you're not going home. He said, of the three people up there, you are the only person I've promised I will use whatever votes I've got to make sure that you do not go home. I don't want you to go home. You're not going home, Adrian. Nothing is certain this week. He's saying that Adrian will win the vote against anyone, but it shouldn't be necessary because Jimmy fully expects Adrian to win the blockbuster comp anyway. But even if he doesn't, he'll win the votes against anyone. Jimmy's saying that Kelly's comp is probably going to be a 6-piece puzzle, something like that. Something easy that's designed for her to win. We've seen production design a 6-piece puzzle before that someone should be able to win, and it doesn't always quite work out, does it? But that's what he's thinking. But saying, yeah, Kelly's good at puzzles. That would not be an issue. He's complaining. We heard a few people talking about this. He's complaining about people not washing the dishes. That it's not that hard to do. Some people say I've already washed 3 plates so far. He's saying it's day 13 in the house, so you need to do more than that. We're starting to hear people get irritated with some of their fellow house guests. At least they have a dishwasher. During my season, it was all done by hand, and I always made sure I did my dishes. You don't want to get booted for something as silly as dishes or taking too long a shower or there's a lot of little things that can get you in trouble. All right, Jimmy continues that same argument with Lauren and Mickey later about people not washing dishes. It just seems to be a little bit of a bug in his craw. All right, we've got a big argument last night. And once again, it involves Rachel. We saw it with Rachel and Zay last week. Well, now we got Rachel and Keanu having it out. Apparently, Rachel had asked a little bit earlier if Keanu had seen her seasons, and he mentioned that no, he hadn't seen the whole seasons, but he'd seen clips and talked about some moments in those clips that maybe didn't put her in the most favorable light. I think it's some of the fights that she had during her seasons. She got upset, apparently, stormed off, went to the upstairs gym. Well, eventually, he went up as well. They started a very heated discussion, not yelling, but very heated discussion. She said she felt betrayed by him, that he had hurt her feelings with her saying that he called her untrustworthy, that he'd been lying to her face multiple times. He formed the 7-Eleven alliances, laying out a list of things where she felt that he hadn't been as loyal with her as should be expected, since these two are supposed to be working together. He's denying forming that alliance again and is saying, look, the comments about being untrustworthy, he said, yeah, I'll own it. But that was just at one very small point when I thought you were feeding me incorrect information on purpose. He says, I understand that's not the case now. You're saying it as though I just got through saying it and that was earlier. We're past that, Rachel. I don't think she's past it. So yeah, they're really not happy with each other. Well, she's not happy with him. He's trying to do damage control. Rachel is saying that he's treating her based on what he saw from those seasons 15 years ago. And that's not her. That wasn't her then, but certainly it's not her now either. And he said, well, that's great. That's fantastic. She said, yeah, but that's the way you're treating me still. Keanu eventually says, look, I'm not against her. I don't want you to go home. And it's going to be incredibly unfortunate if we don't get a chance to work together at some point this season. And he eventually concludes by saying, like, if we can restart our working relationship together, great. If not, I understand. I'll be disappointed, but I do understand. So they it didn't finish well. They basically just said, yeah, we've said what we could say. They finished off with a hug. They started with a hug, and yeah, Rachel, there's always there's always an objective. I think Rachel's taking care of business, even with her discussions with Keanu. All right, we've got Jimmy and Rachel talking a little bit. Just as follow up, Rachel's rehashing some of this conversation. Jimmy is saying that Keanu had said that he had lied to Jimmy because of what Rachel had said about Jimmy. In other words, Jimmy is saying, hey, look, Keanu is basically throwing you under the bus, saying that he lied to me because of what you had said to him, that Keanu is blaming you for all of his actions that maybe hadn't been 100% correct and all that. He's just throwing you under the bus, Rachel. Don't get upset about it, but I'm just telling you because I think you need to know. Yeah, I think it's more than just wanting. He wants Rachel to know because he wants to keep the beef between the two of these going. Take some pressure off Jimmy whenever you can. All right, we got Vinny and Keanu talking. Vinny is saying that he's complaining a little bit about Rachel's game. He's saying, look, Rachel takes just this little grain of salt and turns it into a giant boulder and twists things around and all that. He says, that's why I don't really like talking to her. I don't like giving her a whole lot of information because I haven't seen her seasons, but it seems like that's the case. A lot of people have not seen Rachel Riley's seasons, so they don't really understand her gameplay, making some assumptions and they're quickly learning about her gameplay. All right, we got Rachel complaining to Mickey and Morgan, saying Keanu is trying to push her buttons. I think a lot of people are pushing each other's buttons right now. Mickey is saying that Keanu had said he wouldn't put up Jimmy, and that she thinks that they actually may be good with each other. So a little bit worried about that. That Keanu said that any issues between them were caused by the people around the two of them. That, in other words, Jimmy and Keanu don't really have a beef. It's just people trying to create a beef around them. And eventually Morgan says, it's me and it's you, Rachel, and it's you, Ashley. We're all getting blamed for causing conflict with these two guys. They're talking about how much they like Will and their belief that he won't go home this week. They don't want him to go home this week. He could end up on the block this week, though. Rachel is saying that Will, saying that Adrian needs to go home over Amy. Basically saying that Will or Adrian, either one, needs to go home over Amy. Rachel wants to protect Amy, as do most of the girls, it seems like. She's saying we can control the votes if it's Amy versus Adrian. And we should be able to control the votes if it's Amy versus Will. So in either situation, we should be able to protect Amy, get her saved yet another week. All right, Morgan is saying that Will has mentioned as potential allies for him, Rachel and Mickey and Ava and Zach and Vince. That's kind of who Will maybe would like to work with going forward, which yeah, obviously they like to hear. Morgan is saying, I assume Morgan may be part of that as well. Morgan is saying that saying protect all of them plus Amy and Ashley. And if they do that, they've got a nice little group that'll be watching out for each other. Mickey is warning that Jimmy wants to go for Ashley, uh, just because she annoys him. It's what he said that she annoys him. So he's talked about going for Ashley. Rachel saying that isn't going to happen. He can say that, but he's not going for Ashley. That's not going to happen. Rachel is mentioning to the other ladies that they need to not let Jimmy know that these three are as close as they are. That they need to let Jimmy just keep thinking that each of them is his number one and that he's pulling the wool over their eyes. And just not know that the three ladies are actually having conversations and maybe not as trusting in Jimmy as he thinks that maybe they are. All right, we've got Morgan and Mickey talking a little bit. Morgan's ready to go after Catherine. Mickey agrees. Morgan does not like Kat, not at all. So she's ready to go after Kat. Mickey's agreeing with that. They both think that Riley needs to go on the block. Forget this putting Will up and Amy up. Riley needs to go on the block. They're complaining that Jimmy just wants to put up Amy and Will just because it's easy for him. He doesn't get any more blood on his hands. They feel like no one's going to complain too much. I hear a lot of complaining go on, but they think he's doing it just because it's an easy couple of renoms. They're talking about that they need to get to work on a couple of people that might take Jimmy out, that Jimmy's gathered too many people. It may be time to be pointing putting some targets on Jimmy. So let's find a few people that can make that happen. Vince and Zach are both mentioned as potential names to do that. Don't know that Vince would be the best one to target Jimmy. Zach, potentially so. They also want to get Keanu to go after Jimmy by saying that Jimmy is definitely gunning for Keanu. So keep the beef going or get the beef restarted with those two is certainly part of the plan. All right, we've got Ashley and Will and Amy talking. Ashley says if it's Will versus Adrian in the vote, that Will has her and Ava and Rachel and Mickey and Morgan and Amy and just needs just one more vote. And she's wondering if it maybe could be Riley. Will is saying, I don't think I can get Riley's vote. And Will is also saying, I just don't see a scenario where if it comes to a vote that I'm winning out against anyone else that's been mentioned as being on the block. He says, I think it's not looking good for old Will right now. So he's a little bit nervous about the way these things are working out. From Will's standpoint, he really needs Kelly not to win this veto competition today and to stay on the block. So he's golden. If not, it could be rough for Will. All right, we've got Ashley and Mickey and Morgan all agreeing that they would keep Lauren over Catherine if it came down to it. Again, the lady's just not really feeling it with Kat right now. Ashley is saying that Keanu is delusional because apparently Keanu told Ashley, says, I feel pretty good. I don't think anyone's going to be putting me up on the block next week. Remember, Keanu thinks that he has worked out deals with Jimmy and Rachel, and I can't remember who else. He feels like he's worked out deals with everyone not to put him on the block in exchange for different agreements here or there. And yeah, it may not happen, Keanu, but he's telling Ashley he should be good. No one's putting him up next week. Yeah, that may be a little delusional. All right, the house guest. As much conversation is going on, I guess production thought they needed to ramp it up a little bit. House guest got some wine and alcohol. Very excited about that. Limited, especially when you have this many people. Yeah, you're lucky if you get a beer. You're lucky if you get a glass of wine. But still, something to break up the day. So everyone got alcohol and wine. Very excited about that. We eventually have the entire house out by the hammock. No game talk. Just a lot of talking. Date, marry, kill, thought exercises, things like that. People just having fun out there. The feeds were down a lot. Why are the feeds down when you've got non-game talk, just people hanging out? I don't know. Maybe the cameramen are taking a little break as well. But feeds were down quite a bit, but they're just out there hanging for quite a while. All right, we've got Adrian and Kelly in their beds, getting ready to call it a night. Adrian is telling Kelly, said, look, we're under the gun. It's time to fight for our lives at this point in time. But he's hating the fact that it's only Sunday night, and they don't have until Thursday before they have the blockbuster competition. He's saying that's so long to wait, so long to just be in limbo, hoping that you can win that blockbuster comp. Yeah, Survivor, it ain't. Survivor goes fast. Every day there's a different challenge. Blockbuster, you got to learn to live with a lot of downtime, and that's what Adrian's facing right now. He's ready to get there, ready to prove himself in this blockbuster comp. He has to wait 4 or 5 days. 4 days, I guess it is. So yeah, feeling a little anxious to get this thing started, but not going to happen anytime soon. So he's griping, not griping. He's just wishing it'd come a little faster. Kelly is saying. Kelly is saying these comps are easy. It shouldn't be a problem at all. She said, I'm going to try to win the veto competition today. But if not, Adrian, you or I, one or the other of us is going to win the blockbuster comp over Amy. And then after that, we'll just, we'll make sure we've got the vote. So we should be all right. Kelly feeling very comfortable about her ability to compete in these comps. Not all comps are the same, Kelly. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, as I think you're going to be discovering at some point in the near future. All right, we got Kathy and Jimmy and Lauren talking. Catherine, Kathy. I haven't decided yet what it is, but Kat and Jimmy and Lauren all up in the HOH room talking. They spent a lot of time up there just hanging. I think Jimmy called it another girls' night or sleepover. Jimmy is saying that nominating people is so hard. I thought he said HOH was going to be easy and smooth for him. It's never easy and smooth. Nominating people is hard. Kat wants Amy gone over Will. She's decided that she's had enough with Amy. And now Jimmy is agreeing. He's complaining about Amy moping and crying and whining and just uncomfortable with Amy being in the house right now. But Jimmy is also saying that Amy is a number for him. So, what do you do here? But Kat is saying that yeah, Amy may be a number, but Will is also very malleable. We can work with him. And she says, and Amy isn't going to compete. She may be a voting number, but it's not like she's going to protect us by winning any comps or anything else. So she's pushing that maybe keeping Will's a little bit better than keeping Amy. Jimmy is arguing, though, that Amy is always going to be an easy renom. So maybe you don't get rid of her too soon. Again, we heard Jimmy at the start saying his target's fluctuating, and we're hearing it even in this conversation. Because, yeah, you can always get at Amy later. She's an easy. He says at one point, I feel like if we keep Amy, it's just me making life easier for the HOHs to follow. It's so kind of you, Jimmy. Jimmy is saying that Adrian could turn it up in week number 6. So maybe it's time to take out Adrian before he becomes unbeatable in some of these comps and all of that. Lots of jury talk, which I think is a little premature. Who do we want on jury? Who do we not want on jury? Who do you try? On and on and on. We had a lot of people talking jury. It's way too early for that. But I guess you always got to be thinking about it. Morgan eventually comes in a little bit. A little awkward conversation. She's not on best terms with Lauren and especially Kat. But she comes in for a little bit. Jimmy is now not feeling good about Will going. He talked about needing Will to be gone. If he went up in the block, at that point, Will has to go. Now he's not so certain about Will going. And he mentions an interesting little, I think it's just a throw-out comment. He probably didn't mean a lot by it, but he mentions that he could blindside Ashley. Yeah, he could catch her off guard because he already said she's annoying. So he could blindside her and catch her off guard. Well, that gets Morgan's attention real quickly. And that's not the last of you're going to hear of that conversation. After Morgan leaves, Jimmy's saying that Morgan's a scary player. He mentions to Lauren and Kat that he feels steamrolled by her, that she talks down to him, that she kind of just irritates him. We'll just use that word. Irritates him a little bit. Lauren's saying that she likes her and Kat and Jimmy is the best. She said, this trio right here, this is what I like. Jimmy is saying that Kelly staying on the block would be his best possible result this week. That's what he needs. More talk about who you do or don't want on jury. Jimmy wants Ashley gone. Again, yeah, he mentioned possible blindside. He said he wants Ashley gone, but now he's saying he won't be the one to put her up. Of course, Morgan's already gone when he says that. Jimmy is saying that between Adrian and Amy, he would much prefer to have Adrian gone. Again, he's worried that Adrian's going to turn it on at some point in the future, and at least Amy's a vote and an easy nom on down the road. All right, we've got Rachel and Morgan walking in the backyard. Morgan is spilling the beans to Rachel about some of this Jimmy conversation. She's complaining about Kat and Lauren and Jimmy, but mainly Kat. She's saying she never talks game, and she's just up there on and on and on talking game like she just running this house, and I just don't like it. Don't like it at all. She's saying that Kat doesn't like Amy, which when you're telling that to Rachel, you're certainly throwing someone under the bus. So Kat doesn't like Amy, and that Jimmy's considering a blindside of Ashley. And of course, that just sets Rachel off. She doesn't want either one of those two things to happen. So Morgan definitely pushing her own buttons with Rachel. All right, we've got Amy and Ashley hoping that joining Rachel and Morgan. Amy's mad, says, look, I know that Jimmy wants to put me on the block as a renom, but she said he hadn't even come to me to talk about it. He hadn't come to me and at least had the decency to tell me he's going to do that. And I don't like that at all. She thinks that Jimmy wants her gone so that Rachel will be closer and more loyal to Jimmy. I think that's a great point that I hadn't truly considered, but I can see Jimmy feeling a little jealous about Amy and Rachel's relationship and wanting Amy gone to try to pull Rachel in. So I think Amy may be onto something with that. Rachel is saying that they need Kat and Lauren's votes to protect Amy. So yeah, they may not be our favorites, but we need them right now to at least protect Amy. We'll deal with them a little bit later. Ashley's pointing out that Kat also controls Riley's vote. So if you can control those two, or if you can keep those two, that's basically 3 votes that you may have access to. All right, we've got Jimmy and Mickey. Mickey's saying that she doesn't like Amy, and just doesn't like her. Will be going up. She says that's easy. She's telling Jimmy. Sorry, Mickey's saying that she doesn't like Amy and Will going up. Will. Sometimes hard to read these notes. She's I respect your HOH, Jimmy, but I don't want Amy and Will going up. She says, I get it. You're trying to make easy moves, but there are other moves that could be made that also aren't going to get a lot of blood on your hand. She mentions Riley as that possible option. Jimmy shuts that down, says, yeah, no, Riley's not going up. I'm not putting him up right now. All right, we've got Morgan and Vince talking. Morgan is still griping about Kat and warning that Kat and Jimmy are much closer than maybe Vince realizes. She's talking about maybe forming a new alliance without Jimmy, if at all possible. Mickey joins them eventually and says, all right, well, Jimmy's no longer considering this blindside of Ashley. He may have mentioned it, but now he's saying, he's not going to do that. She's saying that Jimmy does, though, want a meeting with everyone. I think it's supposed to be 10:30 tonight. Wants to have a meeting with everyone to talk about what needs to be done after the renoms are made. Again, Jimmy has no power. So have your meeting, but you don't have any control after this, Jimmy. But I don't think he realizes that just yet. All right, we've got Amy and Ashley talking. Amy trusts Morgan, but Ashley is saying that Morgan won't talk to her at all. Ashley is warning that Morgan and Vince and Zach have something going on that perhaps Amy doesn't realize. Ashley is saying that Morgan wants to use Rachel to take shots, but then eventually wants to get rid of her. That Morgan's looking at Rachel as just a short-term tool to use before you toss her out the front door. All right, we've got more Morgan and Rachel talk. Morgan is thinking that Vince is 100% loyal to him. She can control his vote. So she's got that. She wants again. She's saying she wants Riley as the nom. I just don't think it's going to happen today. All right, we've got Jimmy and Riley talking a little bit. Mention that just because you don't hear a lot of talk from Riley. Jimmy's saying that he wants off next week, wants an easy week. So he's really hoping that Riley or Lauren or Kat wins HOH because he feels safe with all 3 of those. And of course, Riley's all, yeah, sure, you'll be safe. Of course, Riley's also not going to win an HOH because he doesn't want to win anything or have any control over this house. We got Morgan and Vince talking. Morgan is talking about a final 4 with the 2 of them and also bringing in Mickey and Zach. So again, Morgan and Vince and Mickey and Zach is what Morgan's now proposing. Vince says, yeah, I'll go talk to him from Zach and then see what we can do with that. She thinks that they need to pick off Rachel early. That probably is their best move going forward. She says also is telling Vince that they have the numbers to keep Amy from going home this week. So just be aware of that. And then finally, we've got Adrian having a fairly long, detailed conversation just to the cameras. Everyone else in bed, it's just Adrian. Adrian's talking to the camera. Just a few of the highlights from his conversations. He's worried that coming in second at Veto Comp has made him look like a threat. And he's right. We hear Jimmy and a few others talking about it, that now they're a little worried that he came close to beating Casey the Comp Beast. So, yeah, he's right. It does make him look like a little bit of a threat. So he's worried about that. He wants to put up as an HOH Rachel and Ashley and Amy and target Rachel. That's interesting. That could be an interesting, that could be a heck of a week, but he doesn't want to necessarily win HOH this week. He says he's not ready to take the shot right now. Win it and take the shot while you can. But he's thinking he may need to wait a little bit, but those are definitely his targets once he gets around to winning an HOH. He complains, a little throwaway comment, but he mentions Ashley not washing dishes as well. So again, the second person that we've heard talking about problems with dishwashers in the house in the same evening. So very interesting. And then he's wondering about the battle back. Are we going to have a battle back this year? Are we going to have more double evictions? How do we handle the bigger house size started with 17 as opposed to the normal 16? So what are we going to do with that? Who knows? We're going to find out. I'm sure there's more twists that production will give us going forward. Finally, Adrian calls it a night. He's in bed by 4 o'clock or so, Big Brother time. And there you have it. So again, it sounds like nominations probably are going to be Amy. If Kelly pulls herself off the block, then Will go up as well. And then who knows what happens as far as votes on Thursday. Not everyone's happy with that. And we've got a lot of divisions within these alliances. Jimmy's position a little more precarious than maybe he's thinking. We'll find out all. It'll be an interesting day today. We'll see what happens. A lot to talk about tonight. 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, Cliff Notes Live. Special guest, Nick Macarone from my season, Big Brother 21. We're going to be talking about everything that's taken place. We got a lot to talk about. So come see us tonight on Cliff Notes Live out on YouTube here on this channel. Nick and I talking, and then I'll be back tomorrow morning to cover the overnight feed recaps and talk about everything that took place on this Monday and Monday evening. Until then, guys, have a great Monday. See y'all tonight. See y'all tomorrow morning. SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.